Welcome back to another Sunday morning with NBR. How's everyone doing today?
Very good.
All right, so got a lot to talk about. We got Paulie here on site at Lambeau Field, home of his favorite team.
I'm in enemy territory, people. You know how hard it is to do this? I'm in enemy territory. But
looks like it's cold up there, buddy. You're wearing a jacket.
It's friggin' cold here. It's northern Wisconsin in August. It's about 50.
We got to talk about
there you go.
Yeah, Paulie, come on
Lambeau.
down here. It's about 90. It's about 90
Huh?
down here. Come on down.
All right. I'm good.
We're going to talk to Eric about his 4 games in 4 days. We got Ken here, our resident NASCAR guys. And so before we get started, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody, for supporting us. Go ahead, buy From Sailor to Backyard Cook. All proceeds go to the nonprofit where we send veterans and first responders to sporting events. By the way, the Detroit Lions tickets, they're filling up. If you're a veteran or first responder in the Detroit area, you want to go to a game, let us know. I got a hookup from Eric for somebody I'm going to give a shout out to, but I would say probably half the tickets are gone. So if you're interested, please let us know. All the links are down in the show description. What else we got? One of our guys, John Evans, he's off on family day today, spending some time with his wife for her birthday. Just want to give a shout out. Happy birthday, Miss Evans. Hope you guys enjoy your day.
Happy birthday.
Whatever you guys are doing today.
Careful up there.
So with that said, what else we got going on? Who wants to start? Paulie, just talk about what you're doing in Lambeau.
So, as much as I despise the Green Bay Packers, the Packers are a historic entity in the NFL, and it is pretty cool to be out here by Lambeau. I'm going to walk around later, and I got a bunch of bear stickers in my pocket, so I'm just going to zap the stadium with bear stickers everywhere. Boom, boom, whatever. So it's going to be pretty. If you're a football fan, you like the Packers. You got to appreciate their history. I'm right over there is Titletown. They do have the most championships in NFL history, period. Like 13 or 14. That includes championships and Super Bowls. And then Dub Bears, they're number 2, right behind them. But anyways, if you like football, this is a good place to be. Lambeau is historic for the NFL. There you go.
Excellent, man. I think you might need a scarf.
Yeah, well, it's August in northern Wisconsin, so you need a jacket or
so.
Scarf.
I have the Jaguars had this incredible touchdown yesterday. I have that queued up. I'm going to show that here real quick.
Back of the end zone. But again, you got their eyes are getting caught in the backfield a little bit too much. And you got these guys that are very aggressive defenders. They want to go back there and make the big play in the backfield.
Not that one. It's coming up.
Going for 2. Lord, end zone. Bobble, but caught just in time, and a nice connection with Martin. Results in 2. 22-16.
I believe it's the next one coming up. Here we go.
Into the fourth quarter, still trying to make plays.
4-man rush. Rourke. Get out of trouble. He does. Dumps it off.
Got this one.
Snoop Connor for the first down.
Thought I had it queued up, but give it a second.
Behind by Marquise Bell. Rourke.
Here we go.
Stays on his feet somehow. Will have a chance to get it away, and he completes it for a touchdown.
Wow.
Olesen worked free, but Rourke did the magician work.
Well, here you go, Rourke. This is your opportunity. He sits back here. The offensive line absolutely gets destroyed. Shakes 1 man, 2 man, 3, 4. Keeps his eyes down the field. Finds his receiver down the end. Boom, that's a touchdown. Great job by the converted quarterback / receiver. Back to quarterback, Kyle? Not really sure what's going on, but either way, he's back there making plays and causing a lot of issues for Dan Quinn and his defense.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys watched any of this, but this Rourke kid was lighting it up yesterday.
That was interesting.
He broke 3 tackles, and on the third one, like he literally was in the grasp of the defender. He set his feet and just threw a strike for a touchdown. It was awesome.
Yeah, preseason football is hard for me to get into.
It is hard, but it's exciting because it's right around the corner now.
Yeah. So it is exciting, but damn, it is hard to get into because
Yeah, for sure.
by the 4th game of the preseason, none of the starters were playing. They're getting ready for the game opener, the season opener. But yeah, I mean, you're right though. It's a sign that here we go, game on.
Yeah. A couple more weeks.
I mean, really, the only thing I watch in preseason is the actual players. Like this week, we were watching J-Mo for Detroit, and I wanted to see how Gibbs did and Jack Campbell. So that's kind of what I watch for in the season. I'm not watching. The score doesn't matter, and the actual team dynamic. It's just how the individual players play.
Yeah, Dak Prescott out there doing what Dak Prescott does best, throwing picks.
And I hope Jordan Love on the Packers does the same. I'm looking for Packer fans.
Oh, yeah, you might get jumped.
They're all recovering from their night of eating too many cheese curds.
Yeah.
Cheese curd hangover.
Hey, Eric, why don't we talk about your 4 games in 4 days, man? What do you got for us?
Yeah, so last week, my brother and I did our annual brothers trip to a new stadium, and we actually ended up hitting up Camden Yards in Baltimore and then heading on over to Philly on Sunday morning, where I was live last Sunday at Citizens Bank Park. And, man, what a trip. A lot of driving, but Camden is one of the crown jewels of Major League Baseball. Absolutely fantastic. Can't say enough good things about it. It's exciting to be at a game where the team is actually good. Like, we go to a lot of Tigers games, and there's 10,000 fans in the stadium. Camden was rocking from 3 o'clock before the game all the way until after the game. Just absolutely buzzing. Great view, great food. Their signature dish is lobster mac and cheese hot dog. Fantastic. One of the best things I've eaten in a long time. It was great. So we did Camden on Friday and Saturday, and then Citizens Bank on Sunday, and then Thursday we went to the Pirates AA team, the Altoona Curve, and saw a game there. So we went to a game Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. A lot of baseball, a lot of driving, but it was a great trip. Great trip.
That sounds awesome, man.
Yeah. Yep. And Citizens Bank is nice too. The fans are, I don't know, I've heard people say Philadelphia is a tough place to go. And we just kind of blended in. Like, we didn't have a dog in the fight. They played Kansas City. But not a single person talked to us. It was strange. When we were in Baltimore, everyone was talking to everyone. And I don't know, like, we were just telling people we were from Detroit and we're on the stadium trip, and people were giving us recommendations and whatnot. And when we were in Philly, like, nobody said a word. Yeah,
the city of brotherly love.
Hey, Eric, when you were in Philly, did you go to Geno's Steak?
We didn't, because it took us an hour and a half to get out. It took us an hour and a half to get out of the stadium parking lot. So
Okay.
traffic was absolutely terrible. So no, we didn't. But we did have Geno's inside the stadium. There was a Geno's kiosk. So I believe it's the same thing. Cheesesteak was good. Yeah, we got it with Liz. Yep. Yep, it was good. But yeah, so one more thing about Philly. The grounds crew there is absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you guys saw the picture I posted on the NBR Facebook page, but the stripes on that field are so clean. And yeah, it was just all in all a great trip. So much driving though, We had over 1,200 miles in 4 days, so a lot of driving.
Yeah.
But we had a great time.
Sounds awesome. I would love to do that one year.
That would be nice.
Speaking of baseball, man, Kerry Carpenter made the Green Monster his bitch yesterday.
Yeah, 2 home runs over the Monster.
That was awesome.
Yep. How about Torkelson turning it on?
4 for 4 yesterday.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I hope we eat our words. I hope that guy's not a bust. I really do.
Yeah, it's
I'm
not
rooting
looking
for that
good so
kid.
far. Yeah.
Yeah. And then one more quick thing about baseball. How about the Mets yesterday playing a doubleheader against the Braves and getting outscored 27-3? Absolute dumpster fire of a franchise.
The whole series, they're getting outscored 34-6, I think.
Yeah. When we were in Baltimore, they were playing the Mets, and they have a traveling fan base. It's called the Seventh Line, and we were talking to some of those guys, and that fan base is just in disarray right now after that trade deadline where they traded Scherzer and Verlander away, and just they're just a sad people. It's even worse than the Tigers, even worse than the A's. I think they're just a defeated bunch of people because they had expectations, and
the Cubs are getting close to. They're still in the fight too. 2 games out, I think, right now. Kind of big news there for the Central. Hey, can I introduce Ken?
Yeah, introduce Ken there, buddy.
Hey, Ken, good morning. Hey, I just want everybody to know Ken Borg's with us today. He's a subject matter expert on NASCAR, but also he's a fellow shipmate that I served with during 2003 on board the USS Theodore Roosevelt when we were doing missions into northern Iraq. And he's retired Senior Chief Corpsman, like I said, and we've been shipmates for a long time. And Ken, I just want to say thanks for coming on this morning. And I think what we're curious about with NASCAR is basically how's it structured? How's that point system work?
Well, I tell you what, the point structure is all over the case. You win a race, you get 40 points. You start with 40 cars in each one, and it just gradually goes down. It builds up. You lead a lap, you get 5 bonus points. You lead the most laps, you get 5 bonus points. And it all builds up. And now it's going down to the last 3 races of what they call the regular NASCAR season in preparation for the championship season of 10 races. Have been a lot of upsets. In fact, the last 2 races, Michigan was very interesting. And Chris Bucher clinched a place into the championship. There were a total of 6 spots for this championship that were available, but there's only 3 races remaining. So they've got 12 playoff spots lined up, and they've got a few more to fill in, even though every single race from now until November will have 40 cars on the track. All you'll have are those champions going into the race. No matter where they start, they'll be in every race.
Wow.
So, and the beginning of the championship season, the races, all the points get knocked back down to 0. So they start back up with 40 points again if they win a race, and it goes on from there. So it'll be an interesting race this season this year. Going in, Kevin Harvick is looking at his retirement. This is his last season racing. Kevin Harvick came in just after Dale Earnhardt died at Daytona in 2001, I do believe. And he has a chance of clinching enough points if he wins today at Indianapolis. Now, they're not running the Indianapolis track. They're running a road course at Indianapolis today. So they're looking at several different trends for Indianapolis. They've changed the restart zone, which is the area where the racers can begin to go a little bit faster. The pace car knocks off, and they can just build up their speed in order to start the race, and after every yellow or after every red. So they've made a lot of changes to that, but it is one of the last of 2 road courses coming up. The first one is Indy, and the next one will be the next week after that. The trial at Chicago, Paulie, just for you, ended up being very, from what I understand, very successful. It was a successful sort. Sorry, that's my wife.
I think they had like 70,000 people there at the Chicago NASCAR race. You know what's intriguing to me, though, Ken, about NASCAR is they do the the Daytona 500. It's like the Super Bowl of NASCAR, but it's like the first race of the season.
NASCAR started at Daytona way back when in the history of NASCAR. They all started racing on the beach, and a lot of those racers were runners for the illegal alcohol trade at that time. And they kept on saying, building up their engines until they formed NASCAR. Now, the thing with NASCAR is the cars must match body style with the car that you and I drive. So you see the Mustangs, you'll see the Camaros, you'll see the Toyotas.
Right.
Camaros are going out from the Chevy dealerships. They're going to stop making the Camaros, so we don't know what's next. But each year they develop a new style and performance for their engines and for their tires, and for each track has their own specific setup. And we're expecting to see, of course, we used to go with 5 lug nuts on the tires. In the last 2 years, we're down to 1 lug nut, just like the Indy racers, just like the Grand Prix racers.
Oh, shit.
So when it first came out, you used to see an awful lot of tires falling off the cars.
And you're talking about tires, Ken, with NASCAR. That was very interesting on the Chicago NASCAR race because it was raining, and the teams had to make critical decisions at times to whether they were going to keep the water tires on or go to the slicks. And so that gave me some insight on how the tires play such a critical role in these NASCARs.
Yeah, and tire technology actually started with NASCAR. And look at what you're driving now and how safe it is on the road. That's just like, the Indy cars and the Grand Prix, they perfected wiper blades and the technology behind that.
Okay.
Hey, Ken, what's your connection with NASCAR? You seem to be very knowledgeable.
I've been a NASCAR redneck since I was born.
All right.
I was a big supporter of the old Richard and Lee Petty era, Dale Earnhardt Jr. And Rusty Wallace era. I mean, the young kids have now taken over, and they seem to be keeping the sport alive.
There's a NASCAR in my hometown at a museum. It's there because it broke a speed record. I forget who the hell drives it, but it's at the Henry Ford Museum. It's pretty.
Oh yeah, I've seen that too, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember seeing it there, but I don't remember what the driver was or what team it was.
Yeah, I don't remember myself.
Can you talk a little bit about the rivalries at NASCAR? Because I see sometimes those guys getting out and fighting each other and throwing their helmets at each other.
Yeah, well, think about it. You're out there racing and somebody knocks you off the race, or even, you're driving your car and somebody comes up and knocks you off the highway. You'd be a little bit upset, right? The same thing happens, except these guys are running. Their heart rate is running at 150 beats per minute, so their adrenaline is way up there, and the slightest little thing, they get, they want payback, they want vengeance, and there have been an awful lot of rivalries. The biggest one actually was way back when between Kel Yarborough and Buddy Baker. They got into a downright fist fight on the track while the cars were running because they had not started the yellow flag yet. So their cars are sitting down there. The NASCAR officials are down there trying to break up the fight. Both of them come back with bloody noses because one said the other knocked them off the track. This happens all the time. One time, Richard Petty was known to fight a couple, and then he turned around and said, "That's racing." There have been some very interesting ones. Denny Hamlin comes to mind for recently. And Byron has come up. In fact, he's been restricted from racing the next 2 races. And he may not be able to, he's won a race, so he's already in the championship. But they may start him in the back just to keep an eye on him.
Wow.
So
interesting.
There's a lot of rivalry with these guys. They race for the love.
Who's that kid that just got kicked out of NASCAR because he liked a Facebook post?
Oh, gee, I don't have it written down. I'll have to get back with you on that.
I wasn't familiar with his name, so
Yeah,
I was like, that's pretty
What
harsh. All he
happened?
did was like a post.
he wrote
What
he
happened?
did
I
a
didn't hear about
post.
that.
Yeah, he did a post, a media post against NASCAR essentially, and his team, because he wasn't winning races, or he wasn't doing, his car was never prepared right, and so he decided to do a nice little blog on his social media site, and the NASCAR officials noticed it, and it's like, play fair, play nice, don't be talking us down. So they took him off.
That's the thing in sports. You got locker room talk and all that, and you got there's stuff that behind the scenes in sports, on teams, NASCAR, whatever. When you're talking in the locker room to your teammates, that stuff stays in the locker room. Shut your pie hole once you walk out. Probably the same concept with NASCAR. Keep it in the locker room. Otherwise, that's the first thing that's going to break a team apart. Gets out in the public.
Yep. Exactly.
Can you also talk about how the teams? Can you talk about how the teams are structured? I don't know anything about this. Like, when you say team, are there different drivers on like different race cars on the same team?
Yeah. There have been several teams. Richard Childress Racing and a lot of the other groups have got some of them more than one car, some just two cars. And each can work with each other, or they can work against each other. Or try to help the other person win. Just like at Daytona, you'll see one group of cars, a slower car gets behind them and helps to push that winning driver back up there to the front so that they can win the race. There have been a lot of teams, and there was about 12 years ago, there was a lot of complaints because the teams were winning the races more than the individual racers. Richard Petty started out with just by himself. He took over his dad's team. And of course he drove, and he's the king of NASCAR. He won so many races and he won so many championships, but he was an individual. He built up a team. He's got two cars. Problem is his cars have never been strong, and his drivers they've always been the up and coming, the rookies. So, and after a while, those rookies become a little bit more seasoned. They go off and get offered to a team with like Richard Childress Racing and with some of the other teams. And you've got a team that's got a crew chief. You've got all these mechanics. You've got and each one of the teams have got at least 5 different cars, and they'll carry 2 cars or 3 cars in their trailers so that each car is set up for different tracks. And you will see a whole load of trucks driving into, on Thursday, Friday, you'll see them all driving into the track to park and start unloading the car that's set for that track.
Interesting.
And
this is advanced. This is a lot more than just guys running around in a circle.
Yeah, and of course the road races are really a lot of fun because they've got all the sorts of turns, hairpin turns, driving a different direction, and everything else. If you get a chance, go to Watkins Glen in Pennsylvania and just see the races that go on there, because they have races every week there, not just NASCAR, but it is a NASCAR sanctioned track. So, it's a lot of fun to watch these guys race. And again, think of these guys, and everybody says they're not athletes. Well, these guys have to work out. These guys have to keep their heart rate under control. They're driving in a car that has no air conditioning. So think about driving around Texas in 100-degree heat.
No.
So it's very interesting, and how they came up with ways to keep the drivers cool so they don't have issues with heat exhaustion or heat stroke.
Yeah, dehydration, I'm sure, and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
there's an insane amount of money that's tied up in NASCAR. I mean, these drivers all have like their own private jets that they fly in week to week. It's insane how much money is in this sport.
Yeah.
Well, how much does a car cost? How much do one of those NASCARs cost?
Nowadays, each car is about $5 million each.
Wow.
And they just out there wrecking them.
They don't want to wreck them. They want to use them the next year, or they want to look at the setup for the next year's track. So
how many cars does how many cars does each driver bring with them on a weekend?
Well, they'll have at least up to 5 cars in those trailers, depending on if they're going to be going to another track after that. Now, if they're down to their last track, they'll be rotating the cars around. But they do always have a backup car. But if the teams end up wrecking the first car for the track, they have to bring up a backup car, and they start at the back of the pack, no matter where they qualify. So if you've got a guy who qualifies in first place, they do a practice and they wreck it out. They come up with a backup car, get it set up the same way, but they have to start at the back of the pack for the race. And at times they have actually come from the back of the pack all the way to the front and still won the race.
Yeah, so they could roll in with a semi full of $25 million worth of cars, not to mention other tools and gear and the employees that go along with it.
Yeah.
That's an extraordinary amount of money.
Yeah, it is. And just recently, NASCAR announced their Hall of Fame winners. One of them is Bobby Allison, who was a racer and then he was an owner. His son, Donnie, was named into the Hall of Fame back in 1994. His son, Donnie, was a very good racer. He used to drive the Texaco Ford. It was a Ford Thunderbird. And he ended up dying landing at the track in his helicopter.
Oh, God.
Very drastic, very drastic. Coming in like on a Thursday to get ready to start practice for a race that Sunday. And so Donnie was in there. Now Bobby is in there, his dad. And they brought in so many things into the NASCAR racing from there. So,
What's your Mount Rushmore of NASCAR racers? Who's your top 4 of all time?
Of all time, Richard Petty.
Great question.
Yeah, Dale Earnhardt, Rusty Wallace, who I followed for a long time. In fact, he became a little bit of an enemy to some people. Kel Yarborough and Donnie Allison. Sixth would be Alan Kawicki, who also died in an aircraft incident about the same year, coming into a race. And Kawicki was racing with the Hooters Chevrolet, and everybody said Hooters wasn't going to be able to sponsor Chevrolet, but they did. And he actually had the Hooters girls out there and everything else. But Alan Kawicki would, if he won a race, he would come back around for his final track. He'd turn around and do a Polish lap. Essentially unfinishing himself. He was an interesting character. But
speaking of sponsors, when I used to watch NASCAR, it was the Winston Cup and the Busch League, which were both Winston is for the cigarettes and Busch is for the beer, and then everybody went woke and like you can't have these kind of sponsors. So what do you think about stuff like that?
I go back to the Winston, but the biggest thing with the Winston is you can't advertise cigarettes on TV.
Yeah. And
there was a big fight about it, but Winston had a contract with NASCAR for so long until the contract had to get completed. It had another 10 years.
Right.
So after that, they canceled out their contract, and then you've got all these new sponsors, of course, with the Busch Series. That was another contract with the Budweiser Corporation, and now it's taken over with Xfinity. So it all depends on, a lot of it is sponsorship. NASCAR needs their sponsorship.
Yep.
And each race team needs their sponsorship, because that's free advertisement.
As evident, looking at their cars with all their
their uniforms.
Yes.
Yeah, their uniforms.
And every single time a racer wrecks out, or if they win, you'll see them talk about, well, the Xfinity Toyota really did me good, and thanks to my crew and everything. They'll talk about the car more than they'll talk about themselves,
right? Or
how the car did. But it has to be. They'll put that sponsor in there.
Yeah,
and
I get it.
So.
It's business too.
It's business. And every single one of these car drivers, every single one of these teams have to pay to get into a track, have to qualify. They have to pay. That goes into the purse.
Ah, okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah, and the fans, the tickets are cheap, and you can bring in your own beer.
Oh, you can
don't
still
have to
do
pay
that?
$14. Yes.
Huh. That's
Really?
interesting.
Yeah.
That's a bonus. You ever go
Parking's-
to you ever go to a Major League Baseball game? It's $14 for a little paper
Yeah.
cup beer.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah, you're telling
Oh
me
my
I was
God.
just at 3 of them.
Yeah.
yeah.
Parking's
Hey.
free.
Hey, Ken, parking is free too?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay, I got one more question for you.
Sure.
Your favorite NASCAR movie, Days of Thunder or Talladega Nights?
Talladega Nights.
Yes.
Has to be.
Very cool.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and thank you for your service. God bless you. We love it, man. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
brother.
Ken.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. And Polly, I've got something from your initiation, because remember, I initiated you too.
Oh God, yeah. You
Yes.
got something?
So,
I think it's an anchor that was supposed to go on one of your collars.
Really? Yeah. What he's talking about, when you make chief in the Navy, you go through training, initiation, and Ken was one of the instructors when I made chief in the Navy to give me some sage wisdom, we'll call it, for a couple months.
It was fun.
also, I just want to mention that Paulie is no longer the highest ranking military official on the show. You got bumped. You got bumped, buddy.
Hey, Ken, I passed the baton to you, Ken. Senior chief. Yeah, he's got that star on the top.
Yeah.
I don't got a star on mine. He's got a star. Good job, Ken. Hey, that was, obviously he's a lifetime brother, and thanks
Yes.
for coming on, Ken. I appreciate it, brother.
Thank you for inviting
Hey,
me.
Paulie, no Paulie's Corner today? No rant?
Nah, let's give we can take a break. My voice. I got to take care of my voice today. Next weekend, stand by. I'll have a rant.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Again, thanks, Ken, for hopping on, and thank you for your service to our beautiful country. We appreciate you. And anytime you want to come on and talk NASCAR, we'll be more than happy to have you on.
Hey, I'm looking forward to the championship coming
Yeah.
up.
Hey, championship weekend, we'll definitely have you back on. We'll talk. We'll give you the whole episode.
Yeah, the sad thing is the race at Texas Motor Speedway, which is part of the championship, I won't be able to attend. I won't even be on the call because I'll be driving back from a high school reunion up in Amarillo.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Amarillo by morning.
Amarillo by
Safe
morning.
travels.
Yep, thanks.
All right, guys. Till next Sunday. Peace.
Have a good week, everyone.
See ya.